If you're tuning in, you're questioning the narrative and yearn for clarity. Welcome. This podcast explores diverse topics, dedicated to unraveling truths with insights from special guests and experts. Tune in on Spotify and other streaming platforms.
Welcome back to Hoodwinked. It is your girl, Maya the Bee. Thanks so much for listening and tuning in to the last show where I talked about some of the weight loss trends that we can't stop hearing about, Ozempic and Wegovy and other semi-glutide medications that are helping people and especially celebrities lose massive amounts of weight. Really, the goal of this show is to create awareness, and I really want y'all to have your own opinions about things, of course, but I'm just here to share my research that I've done and share my opinions on it. Again, I am not a medical professional, but you really don't have to be to understand, the consequences of certain things and just, to do your own kind of research when it comes to putting anything in your body or on your body. So this week, it's a whole different topic, a really kind of juicy, exciting topic of online dating. Online dating is, I think it's been really prevalent, all throughout like internet history. Probably right away, people started making connections on things like AIM, and you remember back in the day, Yahoo Messenger, and even though those weren't necessarily set up for dating, it was set up for human connection, and then those things have evolved. But the main point really behind this show is to kind of expose lies and deceit that you may experience during online dating activities. Unfortunately, what happens with social media is that there's this great opportunity to hide who you are and kind of show up the way that you want to present. And that could be lying about your age, lying about your profession, your financial status, your marital status, your family status, so many things, your sexual orientation status, your gender status. It's really crazy how much room for lying there is these days with the internet. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to just talk about why people lie. I'm going to also share some facts about online dating, some red flags, some green flags. I'm going to go over a case study of a real person. I changed her name for the show, but her name's Lola for the show. So we're going to go over her online dating situation, kind of identify what maybe she could have done earlier, and then also we'll talk about some of the things that you can do to avoid these kinds of situations or just be more aware, and then we'll talk about some lessons learned at the end. And then again, I encourage y'all to join in on the conversation on Instagram at It's Maya the Bee, and you have been hoodwinked for the show. So let's kick this off. First, let's talk about why do people lie. Many, many reasons. Self-presentation, insecurity, fear of rejection, desperation. Some people are nuts and they want to experiment and they want to see how far they can get with these kinds of lies. Catfishing. Some people are, I feel like you have to have some sort of mental imbalance or just be kind of missing something, period, if you catfish someone else. One, it's like, how far do you go to satisfy yourself? You hurt somebody else, because the thing is, in these online relationships, it's like one person is usually really into it, really thinking this is the real deal, while the other person is scamming the shit out of you. So there's many reasons, people lie. Again, they want to get what they want. So, in order to do that, some people will go as far as lying and deceiving you. There is a survey, it's called the Kaspersky, I'm probably saying that wrong, survey of online daters from around the world. They found that over half of these people surveyed lie online, which is duh. And then Cornell University and the University of Wisconsin also found that in the US, we have an even higher percentage of online dating liars, and they're saying it's as high as 80%. So, yay. Just remember those numbers when you're out there, and don't feel like, you are being too harsh or too judgmental or too picking somebody apart, because people are lying. They're lying to, sleep with you. They're lying to just get some of your energy. They could be lying to get close to you for a reason, money, property, whatever it is. So you really got to be aware. So now let's kind of talk about this case study. This one is really good. And we're going to go through the red and green flags of this case study and how Lola kind of got duped into falling for this guy. I mean, it's sad that, people will go this far and entangle with some innocent person just to get, what they want. So just really kind of crazy, but also intriguing how people, have this in their psychological makeup that they feel like it's okay to do this, and then they just go and do it to someone else. So Lola is a really smart woman. She is a flight attendant. She works a lot. She has a great life. She is single. She has no kids. And she just recently got back into the dating world. She dated a guy for 6 months. They actually met on Instagram. So this guy had been following her since 2013. And she actually didn't even follow him back until a few years later. And then just recently, he's kind of been catching her eye with just really nice messages. And then she kind of went back into all the years of him messaging, and it was like never kind of nasty, sexual, aggressive kind of messages, all really sweet. And she thought, whoa, maybe I'm missing something here. Let me see what this guy is about. So they started being, exchanging more DMs on Instagram over the course of a year, she said, before they actually met 6 or 7 months ago. So they had been, having nice exchanges. And he had mentioned a few times, like, having, an opportunity to go to brunch with her would really be something he's interested in. And she kind of brushed him off the first couple times. But then he, started saying things like he's, sick of the dating scene. He was divorced and he's ready to settle down again, and how he has a home near her. So he has a retirement plan, and it's an aggressive retirement plan. He's hoping to do that very soon. So that to her signaled like, wow, you're thinking about, potentially a future with me. You already thought about where I live and how you could be closer. So she really liked this. So it kind of caught her eye. And when he came into town, the next time, she decided, you know what, I will have a dinner with him. So she went to dinner, didn't expect to have sparks at all with him. The first night was really nice, no kind of sexual contact or anything. She even said, she didn't really feel like sexual chemistry with him immediately. But she thought he was a really nice guy and just presented really well. Single, was sharing information that was really kind of personal about his family and troubled relationships with brothers and how he's grown, and just really kind of came off as a really just in tune, in touch man. So Lola really liked that. And he, before coming into town, when she asked, like, what do you want to do? He said, spend as much time with you as I can while I'm here. And this was before they met. So she really liked that answer as well. Of course, she was kind of holding back until she felt like a connection. So even though she didn't feel like love sparks or, that kind of attraction sparks right away, she felt like, let's, go for another date. So the next day they spent the whole day together. And that night did end up in a kiss. And then he came back and was visiting very often for the next 6 months. So the second visit, she says, is when they got physical, and that really sealed the deal. It was an amazing time, she said, and she just really felt sparks with him, and he could not stop messaging her and just telling her, how much he enjoys her. And the last time he felt like this, he just can't remember, all the things that women want to hear. However, the second visit is also the visit that he tells her that he had cancer. And it's actually terminal cancer. He's not going to die now, but at some point, this will kill him. So, of course, she's devastated because she's like, man, I just found somebody that I really, think I could see myself with. And now I have a short timeline with him. So she was super invested. She immediately, after that point, it's kind of like he pushed her into an emotional state where it sounds like she's a very empathetic person. So she decided, okay, well, I'm going to help him through this. So she got invested that way. And she said she was like buying him books and meal prepping for him and all these things to try to help him get through this cancer. So, the visits still continue. She's seeing like some other red flags. Like, he had asked her to call, his name was Rick, and then asked her to call him Walter. And she was kind of like, why, and he said, he had a good excuse at that time that, Walter was his father's name. He had some dad issues growing up. His dad wasn't around, but then they mended it. Now he wants to be called Walter. And, she's in the beginning phases of this relationship. So she's like, okay, whatever, I'll call you Walter. Then, as the relationship continues in the third month, it's coming up around Thanksgiving, and she noticed he's not really mentioning anything about like being together on Thanksgiving, which she thought was odd, but at the same time she knew he had 2 grown children that he said lived with him. So she understood that, he's spending Thanksgiving with them, and it was okay. But there were other red flags. When they were spending time together, he was drinking a lot. He was eating like sugary foods. And she just thought, during like having cancer, would you give those types of known carcinogens to yourself, when you're battling something like this, even if it's in remission? So that was kind of a red flag to her. So the holidays are coming, Thanksgiving, he's not there, but he comes in December. And at that visit, he tells her, he's going to have a biopsy when he returns home. And of course, she's so nervous and worried, and also hesitates to ask about it. After he goes to the appointment, she actually sent him lunch because she, felt like, oh man, that must be so stressful, thinking, is something going to be cancerous or not? And then after the biopsy, she never gets a update about any results of the biopsy. She asks about them, a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, and it was like, oh, they forgot to submit it, or some very lame excuse. So that was really kind of the ending point for her. She then made an effort to do some online research. She did say that she Googled this guy's number the first time when she got his number, and she verified like his job and the things that he was saying about his kids and stuff. She did not do a background check until the end of this relationship, where she did verify he was married. She felt like the terminal cancer thing was almost like code for marriage now that she's looking back on it. But let me just tell you the final straw for her. So this is the best part. On their final visit, they go to a restaurant and they're having dinner. And at this point, Lola already kind of feels like this is the end. This guy is like something's off here. He's saying that he's not married, but it shows online that he's married. He also had lied about his age. I guess in the beginning he told her he was 44 and then he was 47. But then when she did the background check, and even the Google search, it said 51. She wasn't that worried about that in the beginning because people, lie about the age. But when she did the background check and all these things were adding up, then the lies became, more significant. Because if someone just lies about their age and that's it, I've lied about my age in the past. Now I don't give a shit. But I have, when I was approaching 40, I was really just scared, thinking that I didn't count anymore because I was getting older. So I was like so scared to say I'm 40, and instead I was saying I'm 38. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Who gives a shit? So I personally kind of understand why she let that slide in the beginning. But when you do get all the lies adding up, and then, you put the age on top of it, and then also the fact that he gave her that name, he wanted her to call him Walter, his middle name. She then understood, okay, he was trying to really throw me off the tracks because, he's not going to be Googleable or searchable with that name. It won't line up. And it didn't line up with his LinkedIn and his social media pages. They had his, real government name. So it just, everything kind of got funky. And then at that dinner, she had casually asked him while he was talking about his kids, what are your kids' names? And since she did the background check, the kids' names already came up. Also, he had posted his kids on his Instagram. I guess he forgot about that. And he gave 2 bogus names to her. So she realized at that moment, this guy has no intention of making me a part of his future. I'm not even a part of his present. This reality that he's created for me is fake. So she never saw him again after that visit. She did confront him in an audio message the next day and said, hey, I just want to know like why you felt like you had to lie to me, blah, 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 kind of trying to get an answer of like explanation of why, he felt like he had to go through all these hoops and like, what is the intention of all this? And crickets. She said no response. He, as an audio message, you can tell when someone has read it, it disappears. So she knew he listened to it. And then he proceeded to like stalk her Instagram. She didn't block him or unfollow him right away. She was waiting for a response from him. And then after a couple days, she responded to him on Instagram and said, hey, why are you looking at my story but can't respond to my message? Like, we've spent the last 6 months together and you can't respond. And he said, "Oh, I have some things going on. I promise. I don't ever make promises, but I promise I'm going to give you an explanation for this." At that moment, it sounds like Lola was already just done. So she proceeded to block him from there. Now, what could have Lola potentially have done differently? Well, the first thing I'm going to say is the audio message, you should have called him on the phone. If you ever want an answer from somebody, you really got to get them live, because you're giving them an option not to respond with a text message or an audio message. So you really want, if you want that opportunity to get an answer or see them squirm in discomfort, you do a quick, FaceTime or phone call and just get to the bottom of it. And I think the main thing that I would say here is confront it from the beginning. Immediately. As soon as you see a red flag, anything. If you Google somebody and they're 51 and they're saying that they're 44, that should be a little bit more of a hard stop. Especially just because these days people are, liars, and they do all kinds of things. And this guy could have been dangerous. So imagine, if he was a dangerous guy and she confronted him with this, at that dinner table. That's the one thing I will say is, I'm glad you didn't confront him at the dinner table. You just kind of, presented some facts to him, and then just, it's decided that you were going to confront this later once he went home, because there are moments where people can get really upset when you confront them and expose them, and they can take it out on you. So I would say also just be aware of who you're dealing with. You can't always spot mental health and that kind of stuff, like mental problems. So yeah, Lola, I'm sorry that you went through that. It's really sad that people feel like they have to lie to get, what they want. He obviously wanted to spend some time with you and escape whatever shithole of a situation he has at home. It's really scary that somebody would say they have terminal cancer and put that on themselves, because it's, that's how far you're going to go to soften somebody up and weaken their defenses, so they aren't going to be, too pushy on you, and they're going to be more sensitive to your feelings, because you've now shared that you're fighting for your life here. So it's so mind-boggling how a father, husband, could do that to another person, especially when they have a daughter themselves. It's like, what type of example are you setting? So, you know what? At the end of the day, everything is searchable. So search a phone number. If somebody kind of says they don't have social media, that is a yellow flag, because these days everyone has social media, and people could be hiding their profiles so they can do things like this and message people and try to make connections with people with bad intentions. But unfortunately, this is going to happen. It's been happening. Without the internet, people lie. With the internet, it's just easier now. So feel free to just DM me on IG. It's Maya the Bee, or You Have Been Hoodwinked. I'd love to know your opinions about this situation, or if you yourself have been involved. The consequences for things like this is really damaging, and that's what is probably just the hardest part to fathom and understand, is how the person that is the deceiver, the liar, not only do they hurt their victim, but if their victim is hurt enough where they're like, well, I'm telling your wife, I'm telling your kids, I'm sending a newsletter to your neighborhood to tell everybody what a piece of shit you are. Imagine the mental trauma that would do to your family. So that person is that selfish that they'd be willing to risk that kind of thing. So there's just so many negative results of doing stuff like that. There's physical things, sexually transmitted diseases that you could bring your wife to new girl to, there's just so many things that could happen physically as well that like you put at risk for these situations. It's, again, I'm just puzzled by it. And then, some people get their stuff stolen. Luckily in this situation, Lola, you didn't get anything stolen from you, but besides your peace, which is really, to me, almost more important than anything money or property. But a lot of people, like, look at Tinder swindler. We all saw that Netflix documentary on how that guy swindled women out of thousands and thousands of dollars. Good looking, smart women. So the lessons learned here are really to protect yourself. Be aware of these schemes. The first thing you do when you're dating somebody, Google them. Make sure their story aligns with the public information that's out there. If it doesn't, you ask questions right away. Liars and deceivers are going to do anything to deflect you from the truth. Just remember that. So if they manipulate and evade, they most likely have something to hide. If they lie about little things, chances are they will lie about big things. And then finally, there are background check platforms that you can use out there, like Been Verified, Truthfinder, Instant Checkmate. You can pay $30 for a background check and get a lot of this information for yourself before getting into any relationships with people. I've heard where senior citizens are dating, and even men in their 70s or 80s are still lying and scamming at that age. So just imagine, these people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, and they've got energy to do this stuff. And you think that people are retired in their 70s and 80s? Nope, they're still up to it. So I'll say the recap for this show really is, again, stay aware. Just, continue to confront and ask questions. And if things are not adding up, subtract yourself. I love that meme. If it doesn't add up, just get out of there. It's not worth, and time is such a valuable commodity. Nothing can be compared to time. So that's all we have. That's all that really matters. And to give 6 months to somebody and put your heart into it, it can be really damaging and do damage for years after that. So just be careful on who you give your time and who you give your energy to. I want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in to this episode of You Have Been Hoodwinked. Don't get hoodwinked out there, okay? Make sure, again, you are doing your research. ChatGPT, Google AI is your friend. Ask questions. Never accept something that does not feel good. Your intuition, your gut will keep you pointed into the right direction. So just trust yourself. Until next time, people, stay safe out there and stay connected.
You have been hoodwinked.